Well, that is another month in the bag. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew. Today we are wrapping up the month of February of 2024, but before we get into that, please do me a favor and like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow, and you can check the description box down below for links to all my social media, including my Amazon wishlist, my PANGO books, the Discord, and my Patreon if you want to help support the channel. With that out of the way, I finished about 11 books, maybe around 12, we'll see here, and I had basically 4 that I just kind of juggled trying to figure out what I needed to read. So let's start with the stuff that I attempted or I'm in the middle of. So I tried starting The Last Blade Priest by W.P. Wiles, and I've been really wanting to read this one for a long time. The first 2 chapters were great, and then for some reason the 3rd chapter didn't click with me, and then I decided to move on and try this one again later. So we did attempt that. I read about a couple chapters of it. I then got 40% of the way through The Forbidden Realms by H.C. Newell. I was having a good time with this one, but it's very, very, very fast paced. And there was a couple times where if my attention drifted at all, I can still read while not paying attention. It's not the best skill to have, trust me. I wish I didn't have it. And I got to a point where I was like, wait a minute, I was thinking about something just kind of out in the fields, and then when I tried to come back to it, I was like, I'm completely lost. So this is one where I need to kind of come back to. I need to backtrack. I need to find where I need to backtrack to, restart reading from there, and then move forward. But I do plan on doing that because this is a series that I am enjoying. I got 35%-ish into Finders Keepers by Stephen King. This is book 2 in the Bill Hodges trilogy. I say Bill Hodges trilogy because by 30% at least, there's no Bill Hodges. I never reached Bill Hodges in this story. And I thought it was interesting, but wildly predictable. And for that reason, it wasn't as good as it could have been. And so I just don't know when I'm going to come back to this one. So I'm just going to kind of press pause on Bill Hodges because I found that just incredibly, incredibly painfully predictable, though well written and entertaining. So like, I liked everything that was happening on the page, but there was nothing exciting going on because I could basically be like, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this. I could be wrong, but I don't think that I am. And then I did come back to, and I am currently reading Janny Wirtz To Ride Hell's Chasm. I had initially left off at about 14% when I first tried reading this, and if you know anything about this book, it's got a little bit of an elevated prose, so you have to be in the mood to read this one. And I had like this massive headache, and I bounced off of like 4 or 5 different books that I was trying to read, and I was like, why not? Let's try and bounce off of Janny Wirtz To Ride Hell's Chasm. And it clicked, and all of a sudden I was into the story. I'm now 28% into this book. I'm currently got this one on pause, but I will be resuming it this month. I'm only got it on pause because I have a prior commitment that I have to prioritize first, and then once that priority is done, I'm back to Ride Hell's Chasm. But I am having a great, great time with this one. It's a very, very good standalone. Janny Wirtz knows how to write, and I hear this is what you want to read if you want to get into Wars of Light and Shadow by Janny Wirtz. So we've got that one. So there's 4 books that I didn't finish, but I'm about 30% through 3 of them. Now, one I did finish very early on in the month is Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. And this is one I think I tried to read too fast because, man, this one was interesting. It's got some really interesting ideas and themes and exploration, but the structure kind of just flows without any, like, if you miss a small detail, that small detail will become the main point of a 1 page or a paragraph, like, immediately following, and if you didn't catch that one small detail, it can be a little bit confusing. It'll also transition from reality to dream state seamlessly, which can also be confusing. And so it just does all of these things that, while I thought the story and the concept was very, very good, essentially, basically, this is either the Black Death or the bubonic plague. One of the big killers is supposed to be done by demons and devils and stuff like that, because they think God isn't watching, so now is their time to wipe out God's favorite creation, humanity. And so this is kind of like a medieval horror where we've got this kind of fallen knight who kind of takes this little girl under his wing, and they're on this journey, and it's very chaotic, it's very hectic, but ultimately, like, it's very good, and it has a really good ending. I just think I need to reread this one, because I did it on audio, and don't get me wrong, I believe it's done by Scott West. He does a fantastic job. He does a fantastic job narrating, but I think I listened to it too fast, and so it just didn't quite land with me the way it should have. So this is one that I have slotted for possibly reread on physical in the future. But I mean, if you do the audio, the narrator does a very, very good performance. I came back to Draenei. Speaking of Draenei, like, I've got 2 books left, and I'm kind of sad about it. I've been reading Draenei now for about a year and a half. It's an 11-book series. This is book number 9, and it's the final Waylander book. And it has one of the best endings of any Draenei book that, like, I think I've read. It's funny because I was reading the whole thing, and I was like, you know what? Like, this is going to be like a 3.5. And then the ending happens, and I'm like, man, that was really, really good. And, like, the ending was enough to just bump it up. This is definitely how you take care of one of your key characters in a series. David Gemmell was a master at writing character endings. And he's also I would say David Gemmell's a master of the last second twist. Like, he does that all the time, where he'll put something in at the end of the book that contextualizes and changes things that came before, but it does it in a way that's respectful and believable. And I just love that about David Gemmell's writing. I am excited for the Skilligon. I almost said Killagon. The Skilligon duology that is next. That is White Wolf and the Sword of Night and Day. I should be reading those relatively soon, but I am now almost done with Draenei. And then finished up this omnibus of the first 3 of the Eli Monpress books. And once again, this one was even better. I would say that I would give this one about a 4.5 out of 5. And it's just, I don't know. I'm so happy to finally have gotten all the way through this omnibus, because now I've got the last 2 in the series, which I read Spirit Eater, and then what comes after Spirit Eater? Like, I think it's the Spirit War? Spirit War and then Spirit's End are the last 2 books. And they're beefier. They're a lot beefier. There's a reason those aren't in an omnibus, because they're much, much bigger. But once I finish those, I will have concluded my first Rachel Aaron series, and I can move on to Heartstrikers, which is the planned goal. But, I mean, what can I say about Eli Monpress? He's great. We get a lot more of Nico, we get a lot more of Miranda, and we get a lot more Yosef, and the way that they interact, and the way that they support each other or hunt each other down. In Miranda's case, she's always good. She's always chasing after Eli. It's so good. And I think the Spirit Eater was definitely my favorite so far. We get a lot more look into how demons work, and we get some really explosive moments. And it's really, really good. Speaking of Riverfall Chronicles, did you say Riverfall Chronicles? I know you didn't, but I did. And I came back to the Riverfall Chronicles to read The Spider Key. And this one it's longer than the Wickwire Watch, and I would say it felt a bit longer. It's still really, really good. I would give this a solid 4 stars. But there is a kind of weird mix of character and story, and I don't feel like we focused on either particularly much. Like, there'd be moments where we would focus on the story, and then there'd be heavy moments where we focus on the characters in lieu of the story. And then there's also just some decisions that are made and some chance encounters that happen that kind of stretched my belief a little bit. And I know people get confused when they say you're reading a fantasy book and you need to suspend your belief. There's a difference of suspending belief and suspending chance. When it's in-world magic and it's following the rules and you're not doing Deus Ex Machina, that's fine. I can believe that when I'm in this world, in the story. But when you keep running into certain characters and having certain really bad encounters, and there's no real explanation for it, and then characters keep making really bad decisions at really weird times, where like, oh, we'll have this member leave the group despite the fact that we were almost to the destination where they could get help. Oh no, they've gotten captured. Like, it doesn't make sense. Some of the stuff that happens within this book was just kind of like, I'm not sure I'm following you where you're taking me, because I feel like you're trying to force certain story elements within this world. But man, when it works, it's really working. And then there'll just be these moments where I'm just like, I don't know if I agree with you. I don't know if you got me there in a way that I can believe that you got me there. So I don't know if anything I said just made sense, but I did have some issues with the Spider Key. Still giving it 4 stars though. I am reading the Blue Flames this month. Inkwell Featherfield is kind of integrating into the colonists, and I do believe his integration into them, and we get some more backstory and stuff like that. Like, all of that was great to get. And then it felt like certain villains were brought back, or I guess I'll say antagonists, not villains, were brought back as kind of just token appearance, like right at the last second. And I don't know. We shall see how the Blue Flames goes. But as of right now, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I still am not sad that I read it. There were just some elements in it that didn't work for me. And then, shocking me, I read 2 Adrian Tchaikovsky novellas. This is thanks to Murphy Napier. She was basically like, hey, I'm reading a novella, you're joining me. And I'm like, okay, sure, why not? Now, if you know anything about me, I either really like Adrian Tchaikovsky or I really don't like Adrian Tchaikovsky. And I think I'm coming to the conclusion that if it's not the first book in a series, then I don't like Adrian Tchaikovsky. Like, I don't like any of his novels, any of his standalone novels. Like, I think 4 books. I like Guns of the Dawn. I love Guns of the Dawn. Empire Black and Gold. One of the Time series. I don't know. I've forgotten the name of it. Like, it's not Words of Time. Words in Time is a YouTube channel that just hit 10,000 subscribers. Love Jonathan. You should check Jonathan out. I don't know. It's gone. It's gone. And then there's another one that I like. But I've discovered that I do like his novellas. And that is Put Away Childish Things and then Ogres right here. And I read both of these and I loved them. This is kind of like a dark Narnia. And I loved everything that kind of went into this. It was really, really cool. It's like, imagine taking the 100 Acre Wood, Narnia, smash them together, and then make them a little bit darker and a little bit more messed up. And that's what you get right here. I love this. This is a signed copy. I had to have it. And then I also have Ogres on the Way, which is told in the second person POV, which I've only ever experienced one other time before. And it didn't work for me then. This is how you do second person POV, because there's a couple twists in the story that are just like, oh, that was really good. So I really, really appreciated Ogres. That one was awesome. I then read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Wasn't on my radar at all, but I had it on the shelf and I decided to give it a whirl. I was very familiar with the story. The kind of pop culture Frankenstein is very different than the Mary Shelley Frankenstein. And this one just didn't work for me. I thought the prose was beautifully written, but it felt to me like a stage play. Maybe because I've seen stage plays of Frankenstein. And there was just certain decisions that were made that was just like, I couldn't believe it. And I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense. And there's just a bunch of stuff that happens where, like, Frankenstein absolutely sucks. The Dr. Frankenstein is the worst, and he deserves everything that happens to him. The monster is a prick, but at the same time, like, he makes logical leaps and growths and decisions, and you get these really chance encounters that just, I'm just like, how? Why? When? Nothing is, and I'm sorry, that's not how fevers work. Like, you don't get a shock and then fall into a fever. Like, that's very, like, of the time, is if you need to pass any sort of time, just have somebody collapse and fall into a fever. I think Crime and Punishment does that as well. From what I've heard, is like, oh no, we need to pass some time here. Have a fever and pass out. Like, that's just something that didn't work for me. But For the people who do love Frankenstein, I really understand. For me, this just wasn't for me. But yeah, let's move on to The Ghost Brigades by John Scalzi. And this one was very good. We kind of explore the Ghost Brigades a little bit more with Jared Dirac. And Jared is kind of like, he's this new style of Ghost Brigade. They're trying to find a traitor, and so they're doing something a little new here. And I love his entire character arc within this story. But again, there's still that kind of sexual content in here that I'm just like, I wish that wasn't here. Otherwise, this would be a perfect 5 out of 5. But there is some sexual content there that just doesn't really need to be present within the story. So, I mean, it's a small complaint that I constantly have with John Scalzi's writing, at least within his Old Man's War. But, I mean, it was very good. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed it. We've got 4 more books to talk about. We got Curse of Krakens by Kevin Hearn. And this one, I don't know. It's a bit too long for what it needs to be. It's got like 200 pages of falling action, and the end result felt like a bunch of schoolyard bullies going to pick on the weak kid, which I think has to deal with the length and the way the story is told. Basically, all 3 books are one story. It goes from day 1 to day 52, where we've got our bard telling us the story. And then when he gets to the end of the story, they go off to kind of rectify the beginning of the story. Problem is that was in book 1, and then we don't address any of that really in book 2. We do some investigation of why they did what they did in book 1, but there's no real conflict. Like, that conflict is all in book 1, and then we kind of go to kind of smack them back in book number 3. These big frost giants who came over and just started randomly killing people out of nowhere. So all of that was just kind of in here, but it felt like 6 people ganging up on one. 7 Kennings, that's where I'm getting my math from. And it didn't fully work for me. I'd give this one about a 3.5 out of 5. And it ends on a crotch joke, which wasn't my favorite way to end a series. I would much prefer they not do that. I don't know if that sticks to the landing, and the crotch joke just didn't seem necessary. We then came back to Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. I don't know why I say we when I'm recording. I came back to Saga of the Forgotten Warrior by Larry Correia, and instead of doing audio, I did with my eyes, and I had a much better experience. I still struggle when it's not Ashok Vidal's POV. I don't really care about anybody else. Childish was a good read, though. Everybody else, like when it's the villains, I don't care. And when it's, there's this female librarian whose name I can't remember right now, I don't care. It's Jagdash or his buddy, what is his name? Devadas is his name, there we go. Who is the Lord of the High Protector. And there was some great combat in here. There was some great just Ashok going to war stuff that I really, really enjoyed in here. I would give this one probably a 4 out of 5, which is a much higher rating than I gave, I think, the second book. I really, really enjoyed Saga of the Forgotten Warrior, reading it with my eyes. And so that's what I'm going to do for the next book, which I have coming up here soon. I've then got 2 books that weren't even on my radar to be read in the first half of the year. And I was just like, screw it, why not? That's The Hexologist by Josiah Bancroft and The Iron Prince by Bryce O'Connor and Luke Chimilenko. Now, we're going to talk about The Hexologist first. And essentially, this one was really good. I would give this one about a 3.5 to a 4 out of 5. Because it's a little scatterbrained. Like, it doesn't flow well from thought to thought or from scene to scene. And there's still one chapter I don't understand what happened or how we ever even got there. Like, it just doesn't, like, it's like, oh, 3 hours in the future. And then it's like, okay, 2 hours prior to that. And then how did we get to the scene that was 3 hours later? That's never really explored. At least I missed it if I did. And I love the relationship here between Isolde and Warren. Is and always will be. is kind of Isolde's name. I like their relationship. However, it's a hair modern, and there is a sexual through line throughout the entirety of the book that just gets old about halfway through. Like, it basically says that this couple copulates every single day, and they copulate whenever they can, and it's a great way to help them think, and they're always making dirty jokes to each other. And by about the halfway point, it got old. Like, I know this is book 1. I'm hoping we drop that in book 2, and we can just take that as a given, and maybe only have 2 or 3 scenes of, like, it's never explicit romance, but there's a lot of fade to black stuff here going on. And, like, even at one point, they're like, oh, they ruined our rug. She was like, it was just a rug. He's like, you don't understand. That's the rug where we first, did it. And she's just like, oh, the rug was never important. It was always, like, stop it. So there's a lot of sexual content in here that just doesn't, I don't want to say sexual content. There's a lot of sexual tension in here. And there's a lot of fade to black scenes and stuff like that. It just, ugh. And then there was also a couple, like, at least 2 or 3 good places where we could have just ended the story, but we just keep going, oh wait, there's more. Oh wait, there's more. We've solved the mystery. Oh wait, no we didn't. There's more. And this is only a 270 page book. Oh, excuse me, it's like just shy of 300 pages. So, is this Josiah Bancroft's best work? No. Is it worth reading? I think so. I'm not upset, and I will be continuing the series. There's just a couple things I would have liked to see done differently here. So we've got that one. And then we've got my book of the month, The Iron Prince by Bryce O'Connor and Luke Chimolenko. We've got amazing found family. We've got amazing combat. We've got amazing just realization of ideas. We've got just this plucky character who won't stop. We've got so much. I love that. I tore through this 800-page book in 4 days. I could not stop reading this book. This was 5 stars all the way through. Raiden Ward. It says right here on the back, Raiden Ward will become a god. I have a recorded review for this that is coming out. This was well worth the time. I did do this one on audio as well. It is narrated by Luke Daniels. I love Luke Daniels. And I wasn't expecting this book to be super funny. This book was hilarious. So please, if you haven't checked this one out, do yourself a favor and check it out. That is everything that I read in February or attempted to read in February. Please let me know how your February went. Do you disagree with me on Frankenstein? Do you agree? Let's have a great discussion in the comments down below. That's all I really got for you today, guys. So till next time, peace out and stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my passion and my hobby. And a special shout out to my top tier Wizard Master patrons. Thank you, Nico, Aaron, Scott, Mike, Chris, Leslie, Doug, Y-Stitch, Twaney, Spyro, Sarah, Jughead, and Chris, the Bookaholic. Thank you so much.